Jamie. We've crossed that drainage line. They are heading sort of south now towards Rebecca's junction with Philemon, so I'd come onto Rebecca's. You should see get my visual to the north of the road, and they should be popping out onto the road. They're just crossing the road, heading actually further to the southwest now. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about the gremlins so far this morning. We're still with the Wilddogs, and they've moved from quarantine in a sort of southwesterly direction. And there we go, there's one in front of us there. Jamie's still in the area. We are going to do our best to keep with them as they head to the south. And so far they've been quite kind in where they've chosen to go. They haven't gone through too many terrible areas. But isn't this a great way to start the sunrise safari? We were a bit late starting yesterday, so a bit early this morning. And what better reason to start early than my favorite animal, the African wild dog. So what I'm trying to do now while we follow them is try to position myself where I can see as many dogs as possible. So here I've got 3. So if they do take off, hopefully I can see one. Probably at the moment, we're sort of heading almost directly towards the old hyena den in the block, but I think you're right. I'll say go back around to Philemon's cut line. So Jamie and I just coordinating. If they do disappear into one of these thickets, and it might take us a while, Andrew and I, a while to get through there. So Jamie's going to be parallel to us, so we can maximize the chance of staying with them. But good morning. Sorry. My name is Brent Smith, and I'll be your guide. I have Andrew on camera, and on the other vehicle is Jamie and Wium. Sorry, James drive. So we've got 3. There are 5 adults here. And it does look like they're heading for that drainage line. So I'm going to have to find a spot where we can cross. Can you see them still, Andrew? Yeah. Okay. Where are we going to... It's not too bad. We'll go straight through it. Time to let Jamie know. Jamie. They have crossed that little drainage line. I'd guess if they keep in this direction and come out sort of Shabam Junction with Philemon's dip. So it's getting quite thick here. So So they're about to pop out where Jamie's standing by on the road. This is why it's really important to work as a team, especially following an animal that moves as quickly as an African wild dog. Have we still got visual, Andrew? There's one left. And one running right towards Jamie, it looks like. 2, 3, I can see 3 now. Let's just find a spot to get through here. What a wonderful way to start the weekend. Okay, we're going to cut across to Jamie, who's going to have a bit of visual while we try to get ourselves out of this thicket. How's anyone?
Welcome back, and we've got him here. Here they come. We looped around to the other side of the drainage line to try and stick with them. Here they all come. You can hear Brent coming through. Oh, he made it out very quickly. That was very impressive. Comes the rest of the pack. Here we go. Awesome! What a way to start our morning, but surrounded by wild dogs. You're absolutely right. They cover huge distances. This is what they built to do. Brent's still got the other two. I'm going to stay with this individual. And they do cover kilometers and kilometers in one go. They're built for long distance traveling. They move all the time. Very, very high energy animals. I would not be surprised if with all of that moving around, they are hungry. Lots of little sleeping steenbok I noticed on our way here. Just bite-sized prey for these guys. Searching around for something. The pack is split up. We're currently with this guy. Going back around to meet his friends. Slightly better visuals, and we are in some very thick bush, so let's head across to him now. I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone, and we're still with 2 of the dogs who are ahead of the ones that Jamie are with. Unfortunately, they are moving at high speed, or we've got 3 ahead of us now, towards our southern boundary. But I'm hoping they might find an impala before then, or maybe turn down towards Treehouse Waterhole. but at the moment they're on a straight path for the boundary. I just want to say a big thank you to Cindy and Mary, who let me know the dogs were there. So that's Cindy and Mary mobilized us early this morning, got us rearing to go down to the Juma waterhole. Basically, we hadn't even got all our, no one had coffee, no one got really ready this morning, and we ran out to go find these wild dogs. And looks like we got there in the nick of time before they started moving. Oh, aren't they beautiful? So, I know a lot of you will know this, but for anyone who doesn't, their Latin name is Lichen pictus, and it means basically a painted wolf. Oh, there comes another one next to us, Andrew. Sniff, sniff, sniff. So, all members of, there we go, a bit of scent marking going on now, and there's another one coming. So all members of the pack will scent mark, so not only the alpha pair. At the moment, I think this is this, I thought possibly Investec pack earlier on, but looking at this now, I think this could be those dispersal males we've seen before. I've only seen males, I haven't seen any females yet. They could be looking for ladies. I haven't had a chance to look at them properly, but so far all the ones I've had a good look at look like males. Ears up on the front one. I just want to see what's going on. You see that forward-facing ears? The front one might have spotted something, like an impala. So they've got a very different hunting technique from most animals. It's probably similar, actually, to North American wolves. It's called coursing. So they don't stalk really close up like a lion or leopard. They will flatten their ears and approach something that they were trying to hunt, but then they will just run, and they will actually use their stamina most of the time to wear them out. So guys, we want them to turn left, and we don't want them to continue straight along this road. So now, while they're all still, I've got a chance to see how many males versus females. I think they are all males though. So very important to get a few photos of these guys, and we'll send them off to the Endangered Wildlife Trust. A friend of mine runs the working group for wild dogs in the Lowveld, and they are an endangered species, so as soon as we get a chance to get pictures, we want to get pictures of their right side, and that is used for ID purposes. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment. Could be waiting for the 5th one. So they are the second most endangered canid in Africa. There's only about 4,500 left in the wild. And the only viable wild breeding populations of wild dogs, in South Africa, the greater Kruger is the only sort of big viable breeding population, and it's only recently got back to that. When I first started guiding in this area, there were about 450 to 500 wild dog, and then there was an outbreak of rape. Did you guys hear that? That's that contact woo call. So that's the fifth guy who got a little bit lost. There's one still lying up ahead here. Others are off into the bush to the right. Oh, I think we're going to be on the move again shortly. There we go. And looks like they're gonna take us on a bit of a through the bush again. Just trying to see if I can get general direction. See if we can possibly get just ahead of them. This block is a little bit more challenging than the last block, so do bear with us. So Jamie's on the far right of them, and I'm going to come up on the left of them. See, I've already found one here that we didn't know was even all this way far left. And they are approaching very closely to our southern boundary. That's not to say they could just turn west down the road and head towards Arathusa, which would be wonderful because we can still continue on with them. So yeah, they are coming out. One of them is coming out onto the boundary road. So, good morning and welcome on the Sunrise Safari. For those of you who are just joining us, we have started early this morning because we got a message from our wonderful viewers that there were wild dogs at the Juma Dam, and we rushed out and managed to get there before they left, and we're still following the wild dogs. They're now heading west, parallel to our southern boundary, and I'm hoping that they just keep on going this way and they don't disappear across the road behind us, because that would mean they were leaving our territory. Oh, one's going, it's going. Going like this, thinking about chasing something, picking up a bit of speed. Sorry about this, guys, we're going to be trying to see what they're on. Can you see it, Andrew? Okay, then we've still got one, so we'll stick with the one we can see. They can be the most challenging of the predators to follow. Alright, I've still got a tail. White tip of the tail. They've changed direction, and the wonderful news, they're heading straight back into Juma. Jamie's also here, so we're going to try and keep two vehicles. Oh, there goes warthogs. That's what they're chasing, maybe. No, Looks like they're over the Wilddogs. Jamie, do you still have visual? So, what we're going to do is, Jamie's with them in the block there, and I'm going to loop up ahead on the road where it's quicker in case they do go into some thickets. That's definitely a young kudu. It's definitely something they would chase. Just across the road. There's impala here as well. Andrew, you looking into the bush here? Jamie. Zebra, impala, zebra rolling. Jamie. Morning for Mashoa. Where? Yeah, but I got this side up. Just 1 second. Confirm you still got visual. Copy, thanks. They tried to bomb a spin and they went south. Morning, everyone. I'll call them on the Eastern Channel if they come this side. So, you guys, another vehicle there. Jamie just said they chased a steenbok. So we're going to try look around in this area. Morning, zebras. We've lost visual. Last direction they were hearing and tearing was in the block this way. But if they might have caught that steenbok, I'm just going to turn off and listen. So what we're listening for is that high-pitched chatter of excitement that wild dogs make when they catch something. Andrew's just giving the lens a quick wipe. So we can't hear anything just yet. And Jamie's checking here. Taxon's going to check on Zoe's. I think it's worth our while heading back to the boundary road to have another look. guys just have to have a quick chat here with one of the other guides. How's it for? They've lost them in this block here. They were chasing Spenne, so we've got more of us checking that side. I'm going to check back down the cut line in case they turned around, because they were coming south and then they turned around and went north after the Spenne. Bye. So, a lot of you are wondering, what sort of sized animals can a wild dog hunt? And more Visha. I was wondering, would they be able to hunt a zebra? Would 5 be enough to hunt a zebra? I don't think so, Mauritia. Not an adult zebra, baby zebra, yes, but a zebra is such an aggressive animal. It would be able to chase that off. Whereas, if it were to hunt, say, I have seen 5, 6 wild dogs take down an adult kudu bull. So they are incredibly efficient hunters. So this is where we last had a brief visual of them. And there is a lucky little, oh no, she's running now. But there was a little duiker who was hiding in the thicket. That wild dog must have been 10 meters from her. I'm just going to get hold of Jamie quickly, see if there's a update from her side. Jamie. Jamie, do you think they crossed Philemon's lip? Okay, copy. I'm going to head into the block at where I had last visual of those animals. Last time I spotted one was here, running this way. I'm going to go a little bit further into the block here, and then we're going to switch off and listen. They might have caught that steenbok, so we'll be listening for feeding sounds. Although a steenbok and 5 wild dogs doesn't go very far. That'll be finished in under about 3 minutes. Your eyes open, Andrew? Yeah, man. Wildy dogs. Where you hiding? So even with this little green flash we've got at the moment, you can see how much it affects our visibility compared to a couple of weeks ago when there was no green on the leaves. And that is the one thing about the wet season. Sometimes it does make following some of these animals a little bit harder. So we don't have that visibility we had during the dry season. Switch off and listen in this area for a little bit. And while we do that, we're going to cross to Jamie, who's going to give you an update about her tracking of these wild dogs, and hopefully between the two of us we'll be able to find them again.
Well, that was a very exciting way to start a morning. It was a mad rush. Now I'm currently sitting in the middle of the block. I was basically driving full speed through here earlier to try and stay with them. They were trying to chase at what looked like a steenbok in the brief flash that I saw of it, but they are just a flash of spots as they travel through blocks like this. I did my absolute best to try and stay with them, but it hasn't been that successful. So both Brent and I are checking exactly the same block, but different sections of it. I'm going to go back out into the road now. I tried sitting. Now usually when wild dogs feed, they've got that incredible submissive personality that then makes them beg and twitter at each other. I don't know how else to describe it. It's almost like a bird sound that they make. So I've been trying to, if they did catch that steenbok, I've been trying to listen for that. I haven't heard anything. Oops, that was the easiest route. There is no easy route out here, but this was the easiest one. Shame. And a family of warthogs also had a very exciting morning. As I drove past their termite mound burrow, they shot out in either direction and sort of parted on either side of the car. Let's see if we can get if they cross this road or not. They are so fast, these animals. We were so lucky to have the visual that we did have of them. These tracks here, all impalas. This is one of the joys of the live safaris, is you just never know how your morning is going to start and where it's going to end up. Certainly wasn't expecting wild dogs to race out all of a sudden. Where they went from here is a mystery to me. If you have any questions that you want to ask us on wild dogs or anything else that you might have seen, just let us know on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. I sort of roughly last had them around here. Still checking really carefully to see. Now, as I said, they were hunting a steenbok, and they're one of our most effective hunters out here. Something in the region of an 80% success rate. And when you see them run, you can understand why. They are unbelievably fast, and it's a tireless speed. They just run and run and run and run until the prey is too exhausted to escape anymore. And you can imagine with 5 of them, how spreading out and running on either side, usually a steenbok can duck and dive if it's running away from a leopard. If there's 5 wild dogs spread out on either side of you, you might duck and dive into the next one. Just before we went live, I don't think they're going to come back here. Just before we went live, there was a hyena walking on top of the dam wall past the wild dogs. And Cindy, you were wondering what the relationship is like between hyena and wild dog. So would a hyena ever try to steal a wild dog kill? And they absolutely would. And the wild dogs, depending on the number of hyenas, they will fight vigorously to defend their kill. They'll snap and threaten and puff themselves up. And you can get very violent clashes between hyena and wild dog. Hyena are much bulkier, they're much stronger, but quite often with a large wild dog pack they're outnumbered, especially if they're foraging on their own. And the thing with a hyena wild dog conflict at the site of a kill is that it has to have happened very quickly. Because if you've ever seen wild dog eat, they essentially inhale the food that they've caught. They eat so fast. It disappears very quickly, which means that a hyena trying to steal the kill hasn't had time to actually... I'm just going to stop in here if I hear any calls. Sorry, Jigger. I know, it's been a tough morning. This is where I popped out. I've seen some incredible photos of hyenas challenging wild dogs to their kill. But if a hyena is foraging on its own and it comes across a wild dog kill, chances are it's not going to manage it. Good try. It would definitely have a go of trying to steal the kill, but it's not necessarily certain that it would be successful. All quiet around us. I'm just going to get hold of Brent, who's trying to call me. Standing by. I'm standing by on Philemon's cut line, almost at Rebecca's junction. Copy. They might have managed to slip across ahead of us and into this block. Brent's just letting me know that he's going to go around where we are now and head. He's going to essentially travel from Gowrie Main up Rebecca's and up Impala Road. And I'm just going to stick around here for a while. Brent's coming up behind me, and then we will do a bit of a switch and loop around backwards the other way and see if we can spot them again. They can just be so unpredictable in the way that they were moving. They were all moving south, but then as soon as they saw that Steenbok, they started hunting that side. Brent's on his way now. Still no sign of them. Can't hear them. Just want to discuss plans a bit more.
Hello everyone. We're going to go check a bit further around, see if those wild dogs have gone even further than this. It is always a possibility with the speed that they move.
Okay, I'm going to go back that way.
Maybe check the boundary.
Yeah, I'm going to check the boundary. Bye. Okay, round we go. Ooh. I hope they managed to get that Steenbok, but at least some of us have had breakfast this morning. It was a bit of a frantic start. As soon as the messages started pouring through that there were wild dogs at the dam, there was an immediate race to the vehicles. Chris is absolutely right. Who needs coffee or breakfast when you've got wild dog adrenaline rush running through your veins? Thought I heard alarm calls. For the most part, birds and squirrels don't alarm call as much in response to wild dogs. That's because obviously being ground-based predators, they're dogs. They don't really tend to climb the trees. Oh, Jigger, okay, let me take you out of low range. What is there? Oh, buffalo. Hello, buffalo. So thick in there. And Kachino John may well be right. They might possibly be in Mala by now, the way that they move. That's why I'm going to go check the southern boundary once again. Just saw tracks coming out there, but I think it's the tracks of the one we were following before. But it is one of the southern packs, that's for sure. Oh yes, it is his tracks. We followed him up here. Whether or not they made it back to Nyala is anybody's guess. They might have. These are all their tracks from when we followed them earlier. I'm going to do another loop around, see if I can catch up with them. They were, I mean, we're laughing at the fact that they might be in Nyala, but for the most part they were heading south before they got distracted by that steenbok. That was the direction they were heading in, which is why I think it's worth looping around and seeing if they finish that steenbok, they might be carrying on their mission on their way in that direction. Such an exciting way to start the morning. It's been months since I've seen wild dogs. And the rain's even held off and almost disappeared now. So the recipe for a really awesome day. Oh, around here. Poor old Jigger's been over a couple of trees that maybe Jigger shouldn't have gone over. But we'll deal with that when we get there, when we get home. Have a good check and see what's, if any, damage has been done. Now at the moment, Brent and I are circling like mad people, trying to figure out exactly where the wild dogs have popped out. But I believe that for those of you who have missed it, or missed this morning's sighting because we went live so much earlier than usual, the lovely Tara Dales has prepared a 1-minute clip for you to have a look at the replay of. So let's have a look at that for now, and I will be back with you very, very shortly. Animals, they are just so incredible to watch and to see. We had some wonderful visuals of them a little bit. There was one that was even calling right behind our car, which wasn't really ideal because we couldn't get a perfect visual of it, but it did that wonderful low whooping sound that they make. Just a contact call between the pack members. They really are the most fascinating, most effective hunters out here, most efficient. They're very, very smart, completely different social structure to most of the ones that we see. With those alpha breeding, with that alpha breeding pair who was probably there at the time. Now, I know that the wild dogs in the area have been denning. I know that there's pups up at Buffelshoek. I'm not sure about the southern pack or which pack this was, and whether or not they have a den site somewhere in that direction. That's actually why I'm heading down here, because I'm fairly certain they are on their way back quite determinedly, and quite possibly towards a den. mentioned that there's a pack up to the north of us in Buffelshoek, and then there is this pack, whoever this pack might be, moving back towards a more familiar area around Nyala and around the southern Sabi Sands. And Marilyn, you were wondering if that means that they have their own distinct territories. And essentially, yes, they do. Just checking tire tracks here. They have their own home ranges. As we've mentioned, they can move and cover huge distances. So they have a core sort of central home range, which will be where they tend to den throughout the seasons, throughout the breeding seasons, whenever the female, and it will be pretty much only the alpha female. Sometimes a beta female might breed, but it's very, very unusual. And they'll spend their breeding seasons there, moving further and further from the den as the pups get older. And then occasionally just doing these incredibly long 20, 30 kilometer round trips right to the borders of their home ranges. And it's because they can move constantly. They're not like lions or leopards or even hyenas that spend a great deal of their time sleeping. When they're awake during the day, then they are awake and moving and covering huge distances. Which is why we had such a rush to get out and down to the dam, because you just never know when they're going to come back into your zone again. Where have you gone? No tracks coming out here, which is a good sign because this is our border. This is the border of Djuma. This is the southern section. We're not allowed to go there. So we've got to hope that they are still in here somewhere. That one of the dogs was calling behind our vehicle and doing that whooping sound that they make. It's an awesome sound. And GJ, you were wondering if they bark at all. And no, they don't really bark, not like typical dogs. Sorry, distracted. This is hyena tracks though. More like hyena tracks. They don't bark in the same way we understand, we hear dogs bark. They make whooping calls, they make little twittering sounds when they beg, whining sounds, much like a pet dog might make. That whining sound when they're begging for something, when they're trying to get attention. And they might yip, but it's not really a full-on bark like domestic dogs do. They've got quite a wide range of vocalizations in that respect. Here's Brent's zebra that you were watching earlier. But no tracks of wild dogs coming out. Just hyenas. Alrighty. I wonder where these guys disappeared to. Maybe they stopped and ate that stembook somewhere in this thick block and are just lying down digesting slightly. Now if they do have pups back at the den, and I'm not sure if this pack is denning or not, but if they do, then what they'll bolt down the meal in that way and then race back to the den at some point and regurgitate the food that they've eaten to supply both the pups with food if the pups are weaned, as well as the babysitters, so the adults who've been sitting with them and looking after them. And really spending, what have we got here? I wonder if he's seen the wild dogs. Wahlburgs, dark coloured Wahlburgs. Have you seen our wild dogs by any chance?
Bet you he has.
Yeah, I bet he has. He knows where they are. Oops, sorry. Car's rolling a bit. I thought I heard a wild dog groan, but it was just Jigger complaining after the morning. It's all quiet. Okay. There's a dark morph Wahlburgs, but I don't want to stop for too long. I want to keep driving round and double checking that we haven't missed something crucial here. It doesn't look like their tracks have crossed Gowrie Main, which means they are still here somewhere. Between Brent and myself, one of us would have picked up on tracks coming across, and both of us have done circuits now, so they're still in here somewhere. Let's head back around and see if we can find them. I was talking a little bit earlier about the fact that they will bring food back to the den and regurgitate it for the pups, and they make those incredible begging sounds that they practice as in their puppyhood, and that then becomes a feature all the way through their lives. Wild dogs are amazing in that their hierarchies are basically established by begging. So submissive behavior kind of works the opposite to fighting for a hierarchy. It's being submissive to the point that they all fall in line underneath each other. It's really interesting the way that they work. But Marla, you were lucky enough to see wild dogs regurgitating for their pups. And that must have been absolutely incredible to watch. I've seen wild dogs with pups before, but I've never seen them regurgitate at the den. But I have seen that incredible begging, submissive behavior when they try and get the adults to give them food. And it's something that will then stick with them for the rest of their lives until they start to move off. It's interesting that the only time they ever really show aggression to each other, to other members of the pack, is when packs have split off and there's a new pack developing. It doesn't often happen, but when it does, and there's a new female who wants to establish herself as the alpha female and the alpha male, that's the only time when you really get aggression shown between wild dogs. They don't fight over food in the same way that lions might do. And they don't fight for mating opportunities because only the alpha breeds. Sometimes the beta female. Then for the most part, only the alpha breeds. I think my eyes are playing tricks on me. I'm just going to grab Brent's binoculars. He's got mine. We did a bit of a rapid vehicle swap. Oh my word. I'm just going to put Brent's binoculars back together first, and then I'll look. I don't think so. Nope. Continue on our search. I'm going to head back into the block and keep looking. I think most likely what has happened is they've fed on a steenbok and then just are resting for a moment before they carry on their way. Hold of Brent on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Copy that. I'll start heading north, I think, maybe towards Gallagher Shore area. I just saw a korhaan bob up above the trees and then drop their wings, which is what they do for their mating display. We've been waiting for them to do that. Now, unfortunately, it seems as though somewhere in our looping around, they have crossed behind us and they've gone south to Hoffman's. So south of our boundary already. How they managed that, I don't know. It must have been just as we'd completed a circuit. They've made it across and they are heading off. In fact, they crossed further south from where we looped back into the block. Oh well, it was still totally worth having a look around and see. I want to see if that Korhan does its display again, because that was so exciting. But what a great way to start the morning. It's our first wild dog sighting in quite a long time. Very, very lucky that we did get to have it. And of course we have all of the loyal viewers to thank for that. As we leave our wild dog sighting, let us hear once more from Brent, as I know that he is absolutely excited to having seen those wild dogs. Let's see what he has to say, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. What a fantastic way to start off the Saturday morning. I'm on an absolute high at the moment, having seen my favorite animals, the African wild dog, or the painted wolf, and that's what their Latin name means, lichen pictus, painted wolf. So they've crossed out of our traverse area, and thanks again to all the viewers who let us know that they were at that Djuma waterhole, so we could get out there extra early before they started moving. So I'm back in the area where we had those male leopard tracks late last night, and I'm just trying to see if they've come out of the block anywhere. If we have no luck around here, I think we'll head down towards Buffelshoek waterhole and see what's been happening in that area. Wild dogs are called the painted wolf, even though they're not actually that closely related to wolves. If you actually take it, domestic dogs are far, far closer in relation to wolves. And wild dogs are, as I said, the Latin name is lichen, which is actually wolf in French, licon, but they're separated from canis, which is a wolf or a domestic dog. I mean, the domestic dog has got the wonderful Latin name of Canis domestis, so domestic dog. And Canis lupus is the wolf. So wild dogs separated a few million years ago, so they're physiologically slightly different from the canises, even though they are a canid. And Lale in Washington was wondering if their dental structure was more wolf-like than domestic dog-like. Well, the domestic dog and wolf, I said, are very closely related, and they can crossbreed and produce viable offspring. So the domestic dog and the wolf have far more similar physiological structures than a wild dog. A wild dog would not be able to breed with a domestic dog or a wolf. And to put it, the wild dog's their own family. And historically, there were a lot more wild dogs around. One of the main reasons they are so threatened and endangered, and there's a couple. The first being habitat loss. Wild dogs, unlike a lion or leopard, I mean, lion and leopard do need nice big wild areas to survive, but not nearly as big as a wild dog. I mean, a really big lion territory, big male lion territory, probably be about 4,000, maybe 5,000 hectares if it's a big coalition, and a big male leopard territory probably under 2,000 in this area. Whether it's a pack of wild dogs needs on average about 45,000 hectares, so more than half of the Sabi Sands. And they are by far the most effective hunters. Lion, leopard, cheetah all have strike rates of around 2 to 3 out of 10 depending on areas, and the African wild dog has a strike rate from anywhere from 7 to almost 8 out of 10. So 8 out of 10 times that they chase something, they catch it. Makes them really, really effective predators. It also makes them have to move quite a lot, because obviously if they stayed in a very small area, they would wipe out their resources. So that is why they move such big distances. The other two really big threats towards wild dogs at the moment comes from domestic dogs, and it is rabies. And we know rabies is quite a big problem, and there has been a lot of rabies this year in the low veldt all around. I mean, I've already inoculated myself because I do a lot of walking and stuff in the Hoedspruit area, and there's more rabies. There's an incredible amount of rabies in that area at the moment. So, and then the other is also a canine disease. It's called canine distemper, but basically it's a form of diarrhea. And those two diseases are incredibly bad for wild dogs. Being such social animals and having a lot of contact with the other members of the pack, that causes those diseases to spread through a whole pack and even a whole population much faster than it would in, say, an animal like a leopard. So, and as I was saying a bit earlier, before we had to rush off while the dogs were moving, so there's a very few viable breeding populations left in Africa. The only one in South Africa is the greater Kruger. And when I first started guiding in this area, more than 10 years ago now, and there were about 450 to 500 wild dogs in the general vicinity of the greater Kruger, and there was an outbreak of distemper which wiped them down to less than 100, and they have come back. They're probably around 400 dogs in the area again, and that is a sort of a viable breeding number. So each pack that is known is monitored very, very carefully by the Endangered Wildlife Trust, and it is one of the animals that people will go above and beyond to try and save. And there are obviously breeding programs at different places in South Africa. The other viable breeding populations of wild dogs in Africa, the main ones, the really big ones, are northern Botswana. So basically the whole of northern Botswana, from the Makadikadi salt pans right through up to the Chobe River. And that population is one of the larger populations in Africa, probably around 800 or so. And another really big sort of reservoir is the correct word of wild dog genes and genetics, is the Kafue National Park, which is a massive national park in Zambia, more than twice the size of Kruger. And they've also got a population of around 1,000. And then the largest intact population of wild dogs in Africa is the Selous Game Reserve in southern Tanzania, where I've been fortunate enough to work. And that's probably 1,500 to 2,000 dogs. The rest of the dogs are in tiny little patches. Now, they also, like most predators, have a very high mortality rate with their youngsters. They can give birth to up to about 20 pups at a time, but you probably gonna just this area.
And you're back on the back of Jigger. She's driving surprisingly well, considering what I just put her through. And I'm back in the area where Brent had those leopard tracks last night. I'm just double checking to see if it came out, and if so, where. With my eyes peeled and my ears open for any sounds of alarm calls. I was a bit distracted when I was talking about the wild dogs, and then I was in the block, and all of a sudden I said, oh, there's a korhaan. It just bobbed above the top of the trees, and then carried on talking about wild dogs. But just to finish that train of thought, we're just getting to the start of their breeding season. So a red-crested korhaan is a type of bird that flies straight up into the air and then drops its wings and tumbles out of the sky as a way of attracting the ladies. And the higher he flies and the further towards the ground he falls before he opens his wings to break that impact, the more attractive the ladies find it. And we're going to start seeing them doing it more and more often. I'm going to be looking out for them as well. It's always really interesting to watch. It seems like such a silly thing to do. And amazing how these birds have evolved all kinds of different courtship rituals that they perform. From the lilac-breasted rollers that roll in the sky to the korhaans that drop out of the sky. And I'm sure many of you will be familiar with those incredible displays that certain species of crane do. Those elaborate dances they do in the air. The hornbills do their bob up and down dance with their wings open. There's all kinds of different methods of attracting mates. And then, of course, there's the more practical approach, which is something like what the weavers adopt, which is to prove to your mate that you are the best nest builder in the area, to convince her that you would be a suitable choice as a mate. There's just all kinds of ways of convincing a female that you are the correct life choice for her. But interesting to see how they do it. And I'd love to look further into the whole process and figure out why it is that some birds adopt certain tactics. The nest building to me makes the most sense. Convince her that you're effective. Maybe some of the feeding courtship behavior, like you see with the hornbills. The males convince the females that they can keep them well fed. Definitely a lot chillier now that the adrenaline of the wild dogs is starting to wear off. Boys, you don't need to run away. I think they might be a little bit skittish because it is cloudy and a bit windy as well, making them more nervous than usual. There you go, you can see. I wouldn't call it a gloomy start to the morning. It can never be a gloomy start when you have wild dogs sitting at a dam and then moving across an open clearing like that. Those impala just don't want to be seen. They're ducked away behind me and into thick bush. And I wonder if they spent the night trying to avoid the leopard that was moving through this block. And as we've said before, dark, cloudy, windy nights work perfectly to an animal's advantage, especially something like a leopard or a lion that relies a little bit on stealth and subterfuge to catch their prey. Here's an interesting question for you. Should be relatively easy to get. I'll tell you where I am. I'm on the western boundary of Djuma. And we're just going to have a look at the dung over there. It's a very interesting point. It's on the floor there, and it's all the way up into the bushes as well. We do a little bit of a tour up. You should see some of it spread quite high, and I've found pieces of dung like this before, almost at the height of my shoulders. So a quick quiz, and it's going to be an easy one, I would think. Whose dung is it that we've just found? I don't see the tracks anywhere there, so it's not fresh. It's not from last night. But it is somebody's dung. Somebody who eats grass. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I'm pretty sure our regular viewers are going to get it in 2 seconds. And you can send it through to #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv and let me know what your thoughts are on that. I've seen it all the way along this road. And it creates an interesting point of discussion, but I'm not going to chat any more about it now. I'm going to wait for your answers to come through. And let me know what you think it might be. Should be an easy one. Sounds like a woodlands kingfisher, but it's not quite. I think it might be a brown-headed one. It's a little bit early. Oh, let's stop at this parlor here. We chatted a little bit about this yesterday. Have a look at the female in front. Look at the size of her. She is definitely starting to show. They've got another month and a half to 2 months. If we compare their size to the 2 sub-adults behind her, nice and slim, there is definitely a baby impala on the way there. She's looking very, very pregnant. Something that I've remarked upon before is how incredible it is that they retain the level of agility that they do have, even when heavily pregnant like this. And in the next 2 months, she's going to start to bulge, and when we stop and we look at them, we're going to be able to see the odd angle of a elbow or a hoof poking out. It's going to be so magical to see. Now, she would have, in order to become pregnant, she would have mated in their breeding season, which is around May. So the end of May to the beginning of June, or the middle of June, that is when they start to mate. And if she got pregnant then that makes her gestation from end of May to the end of November, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, roughly, give or take. If, however, but I don't think so, just judging by how broad her stomach is starting to look. But if she didn't get pregnant in that false breeding season, in that breeding season, then there'll be a second breeding season in around the middle to the end of June and the beginning of July. And that's why you usually get most of the impala lambs born at the same time, usually within 3 days of each other, which is incredible. And that just creates that safety in numbers. But then you get the late births around the end of December, beginning of January, when they start to pop out. Just a couple more extra young looking lambs. And that's just it's a way of the impala as a species making sure that they take absolute advantage of their breeding season. So they're the most common antelope out here. Their species or their population increases by about, red-headed weaver, are we going to be able to get that? No, I don't think so. I think he's going to duck away. He's got his bright red breeding helmet on. Oh, it's all happening in the springtime in Djuma. that little bird that we just stopped to see, I'm going to show you in my book because it's a really, really striking creature. And we are talking about breeding times. This was the only thing I managed to grab out of the vehicle this morning when we swapped around. This is the little bird I'm talking about. That bright red breeding colors of a red-headed weaver. And like all of the weaver species, they build those incredible dangling nests. But interestingly enough, we get all of those weaver nests at the different dams. But interestingly, he tends to target power lines for some interesting reason. So our village weavers, our southern masked weavers, they tend to target trees around dams. But the red-headed weaver decides to build all along power lines. I don't know what it is about that. It obviously imitates the sort of natural environment. They tend to stay away from dams. And it makes sense that weavers will have different nesting strategies to an extent. They also have completely different nest shapes in the way that they build them. So they've all got that design of a round ball with an entrance tunnel, which I'm looking around desperately to try and show you, but I can't see any. But they all have subtle differences in the way that they nest and the shape that that nest takes. I think there's definitely a little bit of a spring theme evolving this morning, from pregnant impala to displaying korhans and red-headed weavers with their breeding colours. Interesting, these impala are just looking very, very skittish. Nope, they're carrying on. And it definitely was an easy quiz that I gave you in terms of whose dung that was. And we've got a lot of correct answers from lots and lots of viewers, so apologies if I don't get all of your names in here. But I believe that Jill and Janet, Valerie, Lucy, many others have all managed to realize that it is a hippo that I was talking about. So an easy quiz for you. But it was still an important point, especially for new viewers, to get to know the various tracks and signs of the animals that move through our area. So the male hippos, and it's only the males that do this, when they move through an area and they're grazing at night, then they mark their territorial boundaries by swishing their tail from side to side, and it scatters their dung. As I said, I found pieces that are up to the height of my head. So they do a serious job of scattering their dung around. It's only dominant bulls that do it. The females will do it in water. So if you've been to Kruger or you've visited somewhere and you've seen them swish their tails in the water, that's not necessarily a male. It's only the males that do it when they're out of the water. And it's only dominant bulls who have their set territories that they will defend vigorously, depending on the amount of water available. And as it starts to get drier and drier, it gets to the point where they really do start to compete with each other in a serious way. But it's interesting because that particular piece of dung, the furthest dam from us, or the closest dam to us with hippos in it, is Sydney's dam, which is about easily, I would say, about 5 kilometers away. It's a 10-kilometer round trip, and that's not the furthest I've seen from that dam by far. They can travel 5, 10, 20 kilometers in one night. The males will travel a little bit further to control their boundaries of their territories and mark them regularly. But it's just amazing to think that an animal that looks so clumsy and hefty travels such enormous distances in order to mark where he's going to put his territory. I'm just going along along Power Lines Road. I want to double check and see if I can find a nest for you. We've talked about very strange ways of attracting females, and the hippo bull marking his territory by spreading his dung all over the plants around him and probably all over anything in the surroundings. Angie, I think you've got a very good point. No wonder Bob, the Bachelor of Buffelshoek, is single. It's not the most attractive of processes. And I'm sure many of the regular viewers will have heard the sort of traditional African tale about why it is that I think it was actually a Just So story, not an African tale, but why it is that the hippo does this. And supposedly, once they'd lost their covering of fur, the hippo was always too hot and didn't like being in the sun at all, and he went and he begged to be able to live in the dam, in water, to stay cool throughout the hot African days. And he went and he pleaded, but the crocodiles of the rivers and the dams said, no way, you're going to come in here, you're bigger than us, you're going to steal all of our fish, steal all our food. And so it was that the hippo promised absolutely he would never do that, he would only ever eat grass. And the part of the deal was that they would yawn, much like we've seen Bob do recently, open their mouths nice and wide so that the crocodiles can check their teeth for bones, and then they scatter their dung as well just to make sure that there's no fish bones hidden anywhere there. So that is the slightly more whimsical approach to why a hippo scatters its dung with its tail. But it is quite amazing how fast they do it as well. The dung flies off with something equivalent to great force as it shoots away from the flicking tail. Kingfisher call again. I know that we're all eagerly anticipating the return of the woodlands kingfisher, which is one of the last of the breeding migrants to return back to South Africa, and it should be around the end of October, so to hear it now would be a little bit early. I think I was hearing a brown-hooded rather than a woodlands kingfisher. Brown-hoodeds don't migrate, so that would be more likely. About migratory birds and birds that we can get to see. Molly, you wanted to know if the finches are back. And I'm going to just grab my book and I'm going to show a couple of pictures of the finches because they should all still be around. And I'll explain why in a moment. I'm just double checking a hole in the tree. Nothing exciting hiding there. Stop for a moment. Hear the hornbills calling and find a picture of our finches for you. Now for Molly, our finches don't actually migrate in any way. But the only one that we really are likely to see in this area, and even then it's a bit of a push, is the cutthroat finch. You can see why it's got that name. It's got that beautiful underlying red stripe around its throat. It's actually quite a macabre name now that I think about it. But it's not a migratory species. We are right on the boundary of its range. And we might maybe get lucky and see a red-headed finch or a scaly-feathered finch, the two at the bottom of this page. But it would be an exception rather than the rule. We'd be right outside of their range around here. And just to have a quick look in terms of the map, you can see why I mentioned that. So for a red-headed finch and the scaly finch, that is, the green outline is where you find them. And we are just off to the east of that. So just where my finger's pointing. It's not the most specific thing, but if you can see that tiny little red dot, that's where they've been seen once or twice here. But it's an exception rather than the rule. So in terms of finches, there's not that many. But we get a lot of very similar birds that are basically finches. The waxbills and the mannikins, they are essentially finches. They're all in the same family. They just are called a different name. But there you go. Cutthroat finch is the one that we'll be looking out for. And you might be thinking of something like a red-headed quelea, which is the most common bird. Oh, I think it's the most common bird in the world. In terms of just numbers, it's got the highest population of species, of individuals. And I haven't seen any quelias back yet. I've seen them a lot in the more western arid areas of the country. I haven't seen them around the Sabi Sands whilst I've been working here. But it also looks very similar, slightly bigger, slightly stockier than a finch. Continue my perusal of the northern section of Djuma, the northwestern corner. Brent has been out and about as well, so let's see what he's been up to, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, guys. We've been doing some boundary checking to see if we can find any tracks of lion or leopard coming in, and I heard there were some elephants in this area, so we've come here to see if we can find those. Just an update on the leopards that were to the east of us, a quarantine male and Mvula. Their kill was stolen by hyenas last night, and Mvula was seen this morning heading west, and that's towards us. But still quite a long way away, and he's apparently very, very full. So there is a possibility maybe in the sunset safari, he, fingers crossed, comes onto this eastern edge of Djuma. And I'm checking to see if quarantine possibly hasn't moved further into this area as well. Whoops, there's a hole. Nearly lost Andrew. The eddies were at this next road junction we're coming up to now. So if we don't see them, we just switch off and listen for a few seconds. They could have moved quite far. It was about half an hour ago that I heard they were here. Have a quick listen. So we can't hear anything just yet, so I think we're just going to continue on heading south. Let's see what else we can find. Good morning. Nice little group of kudu. And your morning browse. Nice little young boy.
Their necks look a bit funny.
Andrew's noting that their necks look a bit funny. I'm going to get into a better position. I think what Andrew's seeing there is ticks. I noticed it on one of the females. And also because it's quite cool this morning, the rest of their body is going to be fluffed up while their necks, the hair's a bit shorter. So not able to fluff it as much. Just popping their necks behind the bushes, but if we have a look, there's quite a lot of little spots or whatnot on the necks, and that is probably ticks. With this early rain we've had, I'm sure the tick population has exploded. There we go, you can see it on this female coming through. And a lot of that will also be them grooming, trying to get rid of those ticks, so it could be a little bit of saliva and stuff that's making their hair stick down. You can see that constant sort of shimmering that they're doing, and that's to keep some of the flies away. You'll see that with a lot of animals. It's sort of a tick, the nerves reacting to something landing on their body, and they even do it when the flies aren't around. Oh, well, let's just have 1 second. No. Whilst the female looked like she might have spotted something. I don't think so. Quite often in other parts of South Africa, they're referred to as the grey ghosts. No, they're not quite grey. They are unbelievably good at disappearing into the bush. Very interesting. We saw those 5 wild dogs this morning, and from what I saw, they were all males. And yesterday evening, to the north of us, in Buffalo's Hook, they had 3 adult wild dog with 13 pups. So I think that's the investing pack, and I'm not so sure whether this those 5 we saw today belong to the half-tail pack or the Sabi Sands pack, or they are those 5, or they could be dispersal males. So you guys just need to listen to this. That's really unfortunate. Oh wait, we found the elephants, but before we get to the elephants, there have been 2 cheetah found to the north of us as well. I'll keep a listen out. Hopefully they do come towards us at some point. This is that little herd of elephants we've been tracking. Oh, and it's the 3-tusked female. I haven't seen her in ages. If we zoom in on her right hand, she's got 3 little tusks. She's got a tiny little tusk. It looks almost like a split tusk, but it's not. It's actually a 3rd tusk. And it does happen sometimes with elephants, so I'll try and get you a view of that. I've only seen her once before. She's the one closest to us at the moment. Oh, there's little ones as well. So we can see this. She's got 1 normal tusk, and then when she turns her head, you'll see she's got a recurved tusk, but much smaller than the one we saw yesterday. But when we have a look at the other side, there's actually another small tusk that is also growing out of that same hole as the recurved tusk. Nice and relaxed. Slowly moving. There we go. And just try to wait for her. Obviously we don't want to drive around and around to try force to see that side. I'm sure we will get a chance to see it when we stay with them. And let's try. There's a young bull that Andrew's focusing on there, probably early 20s. They're just slowly moving and feeding. We're going to try to get around to the other side of her as soon as we do get the opportunity, but I don't want to push the Ellies. I'll let them move at their speed rather. Okay, there's a nice clearing on the other side of them. Yes, and we're going to just sneak past them slowly, slowly. It's always important to keep your revs very low, move very slowly, steadily, no big noises or sudden movements. And here we go, there's this young bull. Just slowly moving. She looks like she's going to come parallel to us. So hopefully we will get a view of that 3rd tusk. So it almost looks like she's only got one tusk when you're looking at her from the front, but as soon as she turns her head to the side, you'll see that recurved tusk, and then just behind that recurved tusk is that little extra tusk. Here we go, Andrew. She's turning. There we go. See, it looks like a split, but it's not actually. There's actually a gap between it if you see it from the other side. And it's just growing on top of the other tusk. There you can see there's daylight, that little triangle of daylight when she turns slightly there. That's actually a third tusk, not a broken piece of the recurved tusk. Yes, little boy. So, we've been looking at that. Hello, little man. Very interesting sort of recurve and third tusk. And Liz from Wisconsin's wondering whether she would lose it. I don't think so. I mean, she's a fully grown adult already, and it doesn't seem to be causing, oh, can you hear that low rumble, causing her any problems, so I don't think so. The only way that might possibly happen is if that little tusk grows into it and keeps pushing it, but it doesn't look like it's doing that yet. This female's not as relaxed as the rest of the herd. So she's walking, holding her head, making herself look bigger, but still walking a sort of oblique angle away from us. So she's saying, listen, I've got you, I'm watching you. But she is still a little bit nervous around us compared to the rest of the herd. Oh, beautiful little family group. Let's catch up with them again. They're walking with quite a bit of purpose, and elephants do this from time to time. They've obviously got a plan in their head, and they want to be somewhere. From the looks of things, is that female with the third tusk. Ooh, is that a big bull at the back there? It looks like it. I'm just going to go around. Looks like there's a nice big elephant bull ahead of them. Haven't seen a really big Eddie bull for a while. A few water droplets falling from the sky. Hopefully it doesn't get any harder than this. It's a nice sized bull, not a huge bull. There we go, here's the three-tusked female, and the elephant just to the right of her is that bull. You can see, even though he's a young bull, probably between 25 and 30, he is a lot bigger if he comes close to the other elephants. Much taller, much heavier. And we can have a look nicely there. Young bulls joined them there. He's a bit younger than the other one up ahead. So even though they're feeding, they are moving quite specifically, and they haven't spread out like they do sometimes. So if they were going to be more stationary feeding, they would spread out over a couple hundred meters and feed, but they are definitely moving towards a point. And this young boy is destroying this red thorn. There we go. One little bite from that branch he broke and move on. He's after those nice succulent top bits. Hello, mister. Wonderful to just sit quietly with a nice big herd of elephants. Okay, let's go see if we can have a look at that slightly older bull. He's a little bit off to the side of them. And it has been a while since we've seen a really big old elephant bull. And I'd really love to see a nice big sort of 45, 50-year-old bull. Those massive, massive animals. Quite high on the shoulder. He's going to be a very large-bodied elephant when he gets older. He's still quite young, but already a massive animal, probably around 4 or 5 ton. Let's go out wide quickly there, Andrew, and have a look at that little tree that's there next to him. And just grab a screenshot of that, and then for a size comparison I'll go stand next to it when he moves off a bit, so you can see how tall he is already, and that's a young elephant bull. We'll come back to the tree, but while the Eddies are here, let's stick with them. They are about to head into some very thick area that's got a lot of drainage lines, but we're probably not going to be able to follow them. So while we do have the opportunity to, we're definitely going to stick with them. Yes, I see you too. You're very big and very strong. So all that was just a little head shake saying, listen, I'm big, don't mess with me. And you can see now he's back to feeding. Such incredible animals. So we're going to cross across quickly to Jamie, who's got something nice and new to show you.
The calf being harassed by this bull.
Well, hello and welcome back onto Jigger, and I'm going to try and shift forward a little bit. They just moved as you came across from Brent and his elephants. But there is the cutest little baby nyala in here. It's so tiny. Let's see if we can get another visual of it. Just as we were coming through, we had a beautiful open patch, and then the male started harassing the female, and she ran forward. Here we go, little one. I'm hoping they're going to come round to in front of us. But just before, when you were with Brent and I called in to ask to come across here, he was cuddling with Mom and grooming her. That's very, very cute. Oh, oops, got a fright. Mom got too far away. And a very mature, sedate male moving behind them. He's been sniffing at the female to try and see if she is ready to mate with him, but I think he's definitely barking up the wrong tree there, so to speak. He keeps spooking the baby. Let's try and get a little bit closer, see if we can see them. There's a nice open patch ahead. Come on, nyala, come to me. Oh dear, that's not very considerate of you. Oh dear. Let's see if they're going to come into the open. I think this is as good as it's going to get for now, but look at it! Tiny fluffy little thing. Just to continue with our spring theme of this morning, and all the little babies that are out and about, or soon to be babies that will soon be out and about. Oops, something in his foot. That's what that little skip was. Oh Mum's got quite a lot of stripes on her. She's a very stripy nyala. That's going to sound bizarre. I know they all have stripes. But she's got quite dense stripe patterns. And I always look at their stripes ever since we had one. Oh, skip, hop, skip, jump, still a little bit unstable. We had one that was known as Lady J back where I used to live, because she had a backwards J on her shoulder. And she was there all 2.5 years that I lived there. We'd see Lady J in the garden every day. Hello, boy. You are spectacular. What a lovely little family they make. And already that little one is starting to feed on grass and plant material. There you go, that bull's trying again. I don't think so, buddy. I don't think that's going to work. She's only just had a baby. Might be that her hormones from giving birth to this little one are still attracting his attention. Mum, wait! Wait, Mummy! Cute. Into the thick bush. That was really, really very cute. I know that we do see quite a few nyala. Oh, they're going to come onto the road. Let me see if I can reposition so that we get to see them coming out. There was a baby nyala at the camp that I used to live in. And I don't know why. I don't necessarily think his mother was a bad mother, but this little thing was always on its own. Where are you running, little baby? Well, Mummy's there, it's fine. He's playing. Look at him go. That's so cute. I love it when they do this. You don't often get to see the babies do this, but I'm sure your puppies and kittens at home do, where they do this manic running around. There we go. Whoop, round again. And it's the one magical thing about baby nyalas is that they love to play. And Lexi, my dog, used to play with them all the time. She'd go running after the babies, and then she'd stop and she'd turn around and the babies would go running after her. She never had any desire to hunt them. Just play with them. And the playing's over now, I think. Time to have a bit of a nibble. Mom's just not even phased. She's just ignored the baby completely. And that little one will be playful like that for a good couple of months to come. And if it is a male, watching them play with other young males is absolutely adorable to watch. Again. Oh, it's okay. Ooh, I've got a fright there. Suddenly realized there was a car in the way. Hello, little one. Are you full of the joys of spring? Oh, we saw that male showing a bit of interest in this little one's mother. And he's given up now. But it's definitely too soon for her. She's still going to be lactating and feeding this little baby. But Anna Marie has sent through a question on Twitter. And Anna Marie, please let us know where you are from. We'd love to hear which corners of the globe we're reaching. But you wanted to know if this little baby, or if mothers will have only one baby a year. And the answer is pretty much, it takes them a good couple of months before they can breed again. They could probably squeeze in 2, but it would then be right at the end of that year period. But then bear in mind that I'm saying that, but they have a very, very high mortality rate. So if this little one was to get caught, unfortunately, by a leopard, or say those wild dogs that came through earlier, then the chances are mother would come back into estrus very, very quickly and reproduce straight away. So as with all antelope and prey species, they're built to be able to keep their population stable despite being preyed upon. And that's why you don't see that many adult bulls wandering around. You see a few of them, you see much more females, but they have a very high predation rate. Too cute. How special was that? Little family group with mommy and daddy, maybe not daddy, but mommy and male, and a little baby playing. No, buddy, it's not going to work. She's not going to be interested. You are definitely out of luck there. There's a whole load of females further into the block. Why don't you go bug them? Not interested at all. There you can see beautifully the difference between the males and the females, both in terms of color and in terms of the massive size discrepancy. And Natalie, you were wondering how tall that male nyala is. They're big. They are tall. I'm just trying to think of a good way of giving you a measurement or a size comparison. His horns would come close to the top of my head, and his head is probably about shoulder level with me. I'm 5'7". I'm 5'7", and for some reason I only know my height in feet rather than meters, which is completely bizarre. But they are tall and they are powerful, and there's a good couple of 100 kilograms of animal there. Ooh. Ooh. Something's hunting. Oh, that's Harrier hawk. Hunting Franklin. Sorry, that was a rather sudden distraction from the question I was answering. Essentially, I don't know if you heard that explosion of sound with the Franklins coming frantically flying overhead. They were being hunted by an African, sorry, not a Harrier hawk, an African hawk eagle that came zooming past right at the last minute. I was trying to work out where all of the chaos and the noise was coming from, but I think he missed out. But it takes us back to Lynn's question. I'm not sure if Lynn is watching anymore, but we were talking yesterday about whether or not Franklin can fly. Well, that Franklin certainly flew. It was flying very, very fast. It shot over my head like a bullet whilst pursued by an African hawk eagle, which I think I would do too if I was a Franklin. I would also be somewhat distressed and maybe utilize my wings more than I might usually be inclined to.
Squirrel.
The squirrel calling.
I don't know if he's for the...
I think it's the hawk eagle. There's been an explosion of alarm calls. Sure. That was quite an interruption to that peaceful family scene we were talking about. I was answering a question about how tall the male was. I've once before had to take one out of the kitchen. A very, very domesticated one. It wasn't this kitchen, it was at a lodge I was staying at with my family, and I had to try and very gently maybe persuade him that being in the kitchen wasn't the place to be. So I had my hands on his horns, and my hands were up here, above, and just at the base of his horns, above his head. So they're big, they're solid. If I'm 5'7", their shoulder height probably comes up to my chest level. Can be quite an intimidating moment when they do that. I've also had an nyala stop a charge a couple of feet from my chest, But that was because Lexi had just come sprinting back between my legs. Can't say it was a thing I'd want to repeat. I was quite intimidated. I never thought I'd be intimidated by Nyala, but I was quite intimidated by him. I think our family is moving off into the drainage line. Squirrel's still shouting. Let's see if we can get a view of these other nyala here. Stop and have a listen. I think it's in response to that hawk eagle. They tend to chatter for ages afterwards. I can't get a nice clear view. It's amazing how things change in summer. Oh, there's Central. It becomes that much harder to find a nice clear position to look at the animals you're seeing in. We had a very interesting question from Colleen, just while we're still talking about these nyala, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the bird sighting we just had. And Colleen's asked if they have twins. And I don't know. I have never seen twins. I have seen them I've seen different mothers have lambs at the same time, but I've never seen twins, and I imagine it's something that happens every now and again by complete fluke, and it's not very common. And I think that in the process of transferring cars at 5 o'clock this morning in a rush to get to Wilddogs, I might have left my mammal book. But it's a good question, and I wonder if any of you know the answer to Colleen's question about whether or not nyala have twins. I think that it's entirely possible. I'm sure that they do, but I think it'll probably be something that's very, very rare. They're committed to breeding sort of one lamb at a time. Hornbill. Interesting observation about that baby from Patsy, who comes all the way from Washington. Sorry, Kathy. You noticed that the male has the white stripes, almost like war paint under his eyes, but the female doesn't, and yet the baby does. And does that mean that the baby is a male? I don't think so. I think that all babies have them, but now that you've asked me that question, I'm starting to doubt myself. It's one of those things where you think you know something and then all of a sudden somebody questions it. I don't think so. I think it's impossible to tell the difference between male and female lambs. I think they all have the white stripes. I think it's a way of highlighting visual cues with their mothers. But now that you ask, no, I'm sure all babies have them. I'm certain of that. Just had a moment of self-doubt. And just a quick... since we have basically lost sight of the nyala, just to show you the eagle that came soaring over. I'll try and find it quickly for you. Frantically chasing some of the birds, and they had very good reason to be as terrified as they were, those Franklin, because the hawk eagles are specialized bird hunters. So that is what they go after. My bird book pages are slightly stuck together. Here we go. So that was the bird that came zooming over our heads. Wildebeest did a very good job of catching it right at the end there. But they usually hunt in pairs, which might explain why we're still getting alarm calls on both sides of us, from where the eagle came from and where the eagle headed off to. So I think there might be two in the area. I'm going to do a little bit of a scouting mission ahead of us. But one flies high and one flies low, and they specialize in ambushing unsuspecting guinea fowl and Franklin. I wonder if it managed to catch them. There you go, that's the bird that came zooming over us. So many things happening, I barely know what to talk about. Jumping slightly from thought to thought. Let's see if we can see that hawk, the other hawk eagle. here before. I'm not sure if it's the same pair that nest on Central Road, but I can't see the other one. Doesn't look as though we're going to spot it this side. I heard the go-away birds calling from over here. Oh well, we shall continue on. I thought that was a wonderful nyala sighting. It's not often that you get to see a baby frantically playing like that and running around in high spirits. Just pure joy at being alive and having fun and being young. And whilst I continue to find some other magical sightings for you, let's head back across to Brent. His elephants have disappeared, but let's see what else he has to tell you about.
Welcome back. The elephants have moved off, so I've come to the tree that Ellie was next to. Obviously not the best comparison tree, but there we go. You can see, and that was a young elephant bull. There we go. Give you a few seconds. Okay, let's continue on. See what else we can find. I'm really hoping that quarantine has moved west from where it was, and I'm going to go check up on our eastern boundary now to see if there are any leopard tracks coming from that direction. Oh dear. I've disconnected the various cables that go along with the earpiece, and we should have it. There we go. Back up and running. So those eddies have started moving into quite a thick area where there's some drainage lines. So we'll go check for leopard tracks, and then we'll maybe be able to come back once they've moved through that area and see if we can catch up with them again. Back on the road more traveled, although this morning I think I probably did a fair bit of the road less traveled following those wild dogs. Smell that, Andrew? Yes. Buttered popcorn.
Buttered popcorn everywhere.
I'm just going to have a quick look around here. So for those of you who are not sure, when we smell buttered popcorn, it is generally a leopard scent mark. So I didn't see any tracks on the road, but I stopped as soon as I smelled them. I'm just going to have a quick, careful look on the road up ahead. And also, if it is a leopard, there's certain sort of spots or trees next to the road where it would like to scent mark. There we go. Leopard tracks heading down. So we probably missed them because of those ellies. We're following the ellies, but that scent mark immediately let me know that leopard's passed quite. Oof, I'd say probably maybe no more than an hour or two from the strength of that smell. It can last a day or two, but morning like this, overcast, a bit of moisture in the air, I think that smell, that's a very fresh scent mark, and the tracks are heading deeper into Juma, which is great news because most of the tracks we've been following for the last while have not. So strong. I'm guessing, yeah, definitely this is the bush that's been scent marked. Even possible while we were looking at those elephants, the leopard could have passed behind us. Eyes open, Andrew. Well, it's possibly Mvula, and Kachino John was wondering which leopard this possibly was, and he was last seen early, about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago this morning, heading west towards the Djuma boundary. And I haven't seen a Mvula in an incredibly long time. Here we go. Still here. Oh, are we gonna maybe look down the road with binoculars? No. Let's just stick on the tracks. Just gonna call it in on the Game Drive channel. Gonzo of Wanunengwe heading west down Mamba. Make sure he didn't veer off. Nope. Still here. So there are some quite difficult spots on this road, so I'm going to go very, very slowly. Just a pile of elephant dung. We're listening to everything now. Any little bird alarm call could also give it away. Don't see any tracks here, but this is very hard. So I'm going to check a little bit further down this road where it's good. There's an upset sound in Franklin, but not a true alarm call. Listening very carefully. Check down the road, nothing there. We're going to check to this crest, and then if nothing at the crest, I'm going to come back to last tracks. There is a possibility, if it is Mvula, I have followed him. He cuts off this road and heads down this drainage line towards Twin Dams. change at some point. Hopefully this morning started off with a bang with the wild dogs. There, Andrew. I think you might have cut off into this block here, but we're going to check a little bit further. So no tracks here yet. So I think he's possibly still behind us. What I am going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to drive in the Milwaukee drainage line, because it could have been quite a bit before us, or it could have been right then. So I think it's worth to have a look. A nice soft sand. If the tracks were there, we'd see them like this, but he's come back onto the road right here, so we're fresh on his tracks. So I'm going to give Jamie a call. It doesn't sound like anyone else is interested in leopard this morning, so I'm going to see if she wants to come give a hand tracking. I've lost that radio. Jamie. What area are you in at the moment? Mamba, heading straight towards Twin Dams at the moment. So I've asked Jamie to check from that.
Apologies for that jerking you away from Brent, but the good news is we're both looking for the same leopard now. So Brent's called me in to come and search the other side of the Milwaukee. I've just come through the Milwaukee, but I'm going to go back round the other side. There's a couple of nyala here. Brent's tracks are a little bit further south, so I'm going to go quite fast until I get to that area. And let's see if we can follow up. And whilst we do that, just a quick message to Ellen Fowler, who is one of our regular dedicated viewers and who knows the leopards incredibly well of this area. Now, Ellen, thank you for your update about Shadow on Arathusa. I hadn't heard any reports from the guides, but what I will do is I'll head there this afternoon for the sunset safari. Hopefully we catch her drinking at 6 o'clock around Arathusa Dam. But I'll also be in contact with the guides that we know from Arathusa during the day to see if they have any updates from this morning. And hopefully we get to see Shadow once again. But thanks for that, Ellen. We really do appreciate it. Franklin's calling there. Now, if this is Mvula, it'll be the first time I've ever seen him. It should be so exciting. I'm very, very, very keen to catch up with him. I've got to be careful here. I do apologize for the black screen that you might have experienced there. I'm currently sitting opposite the junction to where Brent is. He's out on foot somewhere, I think possibly following the Franklins that we were hearing. I'm just listening really carefully to see if there are any alarm calls. And since Brent is here, what I might do is keep moving a little bit further south. See his tracks crossing anywhere here, so let's carry on and see if we can find him. Hopefully our signal stays stable here. We're just coming up to Twin Dams now.
We live. Sorry guys, the tracks have crossed into the drainage line. This is a bad signal area, so I'm going to have to go down the drainage line a little bit further. I'm hoping he pops out into the drainage line. It does seem to be heading towards the Twin Dams waterhole.
Well, I'm going to move backwards, make sure that he doesn't pop out in that direction. Let's keep going. There's nothing down here. There's an impala disappearing off. I'm going to move back. Apologize for the technical difficulties that we were experiencing. Now, it seems as though Mvula, if it is indeed Mvula, is moving straight towards Twin Dams, which is a little bit of a signal black hole in terms of moving through it. So I've left Brent there in the Mulwati. He's following up. He's asked me to go to Twin Dams, but I can't go in this direction because it cuts our feed completely. So I'm doing a very fast loop around and back to the opposite section of Twin Dams to try and get in from there. Let's see if we can catch up with him there and hopefully get to see Mvula. Just bear with me though, because it's going to be a bit of a wild ride. way to approach the situation because he was heading west the whole time, which means that if we travel around, we could well loop him and get in front of him. By the sounds of it, those tracks were really very fresh. Off and I leave it somewhere on the road, which I would be loath to do. Western side, just because of the signal. Coordinating with Brent, letting him know where we are. This is a perfect place for a leopard to be hiding. Brent's going back to the last place he had those tracks to try and follow them into the drainage line and work out where they went. Roadblock. Roadblock on both sides. Elephant roadblock. There's a lot of Franklin calling, but they have been calling all morning. It doesn't sound like alarm calls. But we're checking very, very carefully. The leopards love this drainage line that runs from Twin Dams. Keep your eyes peeled for leopard spots. Very, very carefully. Now, if this isn't Vula, this is the first time he's come this far west, to the best of my knowledge, into Djuma for a long time, since Tingana started pushing him further east. Which is, I think, why I have yet to see him. I've heard reports of him. I know that in Koro I've seen him a couple of times, but I've yet to. Nice and slowly here. You can hear Franklin shouting again towards Twin Dams. Put my hat back on now. Not driving quite so fast. It's amazing how your eyes start to see leopards absolutely everywhere when you're looking for one. That incredible sense of expectation. You know you've got fresh tracks. You know you're close. It's just a matter of finding the leopard concerned. But I'm going to go through a bit of a dip now, so we might go a little bit funny, but just hold on because we're going to come out the other side and up onto Twin Dams. We should be able to stay with you.
welcome back. We are both flying around this area trying to find this male leopard. I'm going to head back to where the last tracks crossed out of the road, which is on the eastern side of this drainage line. And I think it might be a good idea to sit down and just listen here as well. I think we are really close to this leopard. I mean, you could smell, well, Andrew and I could smell how strong those scent marks were. So I think he's there. There's no tracks coming into the drainage line. So we're going to keep going. Hopefully we'll find him before the end of the safari.
I'm gonna go.
Perfect. Hopefully we find a leopard. This is the most promising tracks we've had in a while. It's fresh. He might have been just behind us and we've jumped ahead, which is what we want to do when we're tracking. We're trying to eliminate possibilities as possible, as quickly as possible, to find the animal as fast as possible. Always just double check these road junctions.
Just listening to squirrel alarm calls. I'm going to reposition to show you the Wahlburg's eagle that's calling, whilst I listen to the squirrel that's alarm calling a little bit further to the south of where we expected to find the leopard popping out. It's one of our pale morph friends, not the ones that we see regularly. It's a different one. The one that nests on twin dams with a dark morph Wahlburgs. But it is such a pretty bird. It is straight into the sun, unfortunately. Let's just sit for a moment so I can listen to the squirrels calling and have a look at the beautiful bird. Birds are calling as well. Look at how striking he is. As I said, straight into the sun with it behind him. So he almost blends into the clouds there, but still incredibly beautiful looking. There's the squirrel. He's shouting frantically, just behind where that Wahlburg's is. I'm just going to let Brent know that that squirrel's alarm calling. Brent, there's a squirrel alarming on the eastern side of the drainage line, just opposite me. I'm standing by close to that jackalberry on Twin Dams. I think Brent might be out and about on foot. We shall continue on. We'll leave our beautiful pale morph's eagle for the moment, and I'll try and stick. I'm going to go onto the dam wall, see what I can find for you there. And then I'll move into areas where I know that there's good signal. I think he's moving all along the edge of the drainage line here. He might even pop out where we have a nice view from the top. So let's go look there. It sounds as though Brent was describing the smell to you. So really, really fresh tracks. somewhere here. This is where we saw our tree agama the other day, or yesterday actually, yesterday afternoon. I can't go down in there because we might risk losing signal. Let's try and poke our noses over the ridge here so we can look down into the drainage line. Oh, that's quite an unsettling feeling. Let's look down here. The squirrel was alarm calling just off on the other side. Keep your eyes peeled.
We live, Brent. Where is he? Where is he hiding? Aha. Brent, we live?
Well, it looks like this leopard has chosen the worst signal area in the whole of Djuma. So obviously it's proving a little bit difficult for us to try find him. And I think if I move my vehicle, I'm probably going to lose signal again as well. So we're pretty confident he's in this area here. And here's a whole bunch of birds. So we're just going to listen for a few seconds. And hopefully me stomping around might have made him move a little bit. And you might get spotted. Something going on with those birds there on top of the tree. Are they alarming at a snake or they're alarming at a leopard? Or they're just having a fight. Starlings, oxpeckers. It's really, really thick down there. It looks like, unfortunately, they're just having a bit of an argument. Trying to figure out where we should go next. I think we're just going to sit here for a little bit and listen again. So while we do that and keep trying to find this leopard, we're going to cross back across to Jamie. He's hopefully in a bit of a more stable signal area.
Well, we should almost certainly be in a stable signal area now. I've moved away from Twin Dams and onto Leadwood Road. You never know, he might still change direction and pop out here. But at least one of us will be able to talk to you, so as Brent goes and tracks his leopard, we'll be standing by here just to double check on what there is to see and hear. And something very kindly flew into my neck and deposited a slight sting. So it's a good thing I'm not allergic to any of the various insects that are around here. was terribly inconveniently timed. Not sure what it was. I didn't really stop to look. I think it might have been one of those little paper wasps. Although I suppose he was equally as surprised to find my neck there, and I kind of just flicked him off. Stop here for the moment, just in case there are alarm calls that we can hear. Let's look across. Now this leopard should be moving somewhere in the bush off to my left. Oh. We scared a little baby duiker as we said that. It's still there. It's in very, very thick bush, but I'm hoping it's going to stick around because the instinct of a baby duiker is to stay where it's been left. It's not that young, but it is definitely a baby. Much, much smaller than the ones that we usually see. Let's see if I can try and sneak around. It's terribly cute. Don't be scared. Just see it through there. Oh, it's going to move forward. Here we go. Here's our little baby. It's hard to get a sense of scale, but it's about half, maybe 3/4 of the size of the babies that we usually, of the adults that we usually see. It's not a young baby, it's weaned. I'm still moving through. I think it was sleeping there, hiding away in the bushes. Come on, little one. Come out. It's okay. That little mohawk between its ears, just like Mom would have. There you go. Looking a little bit more relaxed. Yeah. Helmet stripes, all the birds are making a lot of noise. Right above us, there's a scrub robin chirping. I can't see where it is. Lots and lots of bird calls at the moment. Okay, well, I'm going to leave the area now so that this baby duiker doesn't disappear off too far away. It's probably past the age of needing to suckle from its mom. I think it's reached the point of being fully weaned. In the middle of a bird feeding party. The most vocal of the ones that you could hear is that white-browed scrub robin chirping away. Because it's such thick bush and oh. Well, that's terribly inconvenient, isn't it? They didn't really leave me with a particularly easy path, and I don't really want to squeeze. Oopsie. Apparently I don't really want to drive either. So I don't really want to squeeze around it because it's a buffalo thorn. We'll have to do a little bit of a loop. Elephants and their roadblocks. Jobs that I used to do where I was working at previously was twice a week, especially at this time of year, when the elephants have all come by and pushed all of the trees into the road. My job was to go behind them with the volunteers and clear them away with pangas and hand saws, tow ropes. Tow ropes attached to the car was probably the most fun we had, pulling them out of the road. But you very quickly learn which trees are fun to cut up and which ones are really not fun to cut up. Buffalo thorns and knob thorns, which are always the ones that the elephants put in the road. You spend most of your time trying to navigate around thorns. And then every now and again they'll take down a massive marula, a huge marula, and push it into the road. Too big for your vehicle to pull away and too heavy, which you've then got to cut into pieces. It's great fun. You can have a great deal of fun. Smell elephants as well. Wondering what's happening with Brent and that leopard. He's out on foot. He's going to be looking for him. Hopefully we get to glimpse him before the end of our sunrise safari. That's a very deep hole. I don't know what's been digging in there. My first thought was it was just a normal elephant hole, where they've uprooted and dug, just like we looked at yesterday. But this is not. It's going to put us a little bit too close. Interesting. Something's been after the roots there, but it's not an elephant. Doesn't really have the shape of an aardvark either. But maybe there's no flies, there's nothing living in it. This is a mystery. You can see where it's dug and exposed roots. There's no real termite systems around it. So it's not something that's gone after insects or termites. There is one other option, but it's quite a big hole if that is the case. And there's a possibility it was a porcupine. It's a little bit big. Oh, hello, kudu. Didn't even see you there. They're moving around very cautiously. I wonder if they know where the leopard is. Okay. Well, that hole might be a mystery. So porcupines, which is the one I was considering, they will dig into the ground for things like tubers and roots, or any kind of big storage plant vessel. I can't see any signs of nibbling in there. The other option is an aardvark, but again, why would an aardvark be snuffling around when there's no termites for it to eat? What else could it be? Could be a warthog. They also dig for food, but there's no sign of warthog tracks around it, and they generally don't dig holes that big. It might be one of those unanswered mysteries. It's very freshly dug as well. Could be a honey badger, there's a possibility there, but then honey badgers don't dig in one direction. That soil was all piled up in one place. Honey badgers dig a little bit, then they turn around and they dig a little bit more, then they turn around, so you get a sort of a circle of freshly dug soil. boys, a big welcome to Steve and Jenny, who are some of our now regular viewers from France. Good morning to you as well. Oh, hello Ellie. Okay, I'll stop there then. I was expecting you to go elsewhere. I thought you were going in the opposite direction. Hello, my boy. Good morning. And just quickly, Steve and Jenny, you were wondering if there's any sign of rain or if it feels like it's going to rain. It definitely has that heavy, gloomy look to it. It drizzled a little bit this morning, but now it seems the clouds feel much higher. There's a slightly humid feel to the air, but nothing in the way of a storm or anything like that building. I hope it does rain, though. We really need it. Where's the rest of this young boy's herd? It was certainly a nice surprise. He's multitasking there. He's got his mouth around one branch and his trunk around the other. It's interesting to see. There you go, one bite of one bite of the other. Oh, just speaking of elephants, just while I remember, I had a question a while ago, but it wasn't too long ago. I think it was from Junebug, but it might have been from one of the other viewers. But the question was whether or not I've seen the elephant with the short trunk. And I hadn't when I answered the question, but I did actually yesterday on the sunset safari. Unfortunately, we had no signal at the time, and she was in very, very thick bush, so I couldn't stay with her. But she was there with her two young ones, with her young calf and the slightly older calf, looking absolutely fine and slightly irritable at the fact that we had made an appearance in her day. And she gave me a disgusted look and moved off into the bush. But she's looking perfectly fine and healthy, still hanging around very close to Gallagher Waterhole. Shift backwards a little bit. Are you hearing alarm calls, Wium?
No, there's another Ellie.
Oh, another Ellie. Sure. Goes to show how thick the blocks can be. I'll shift backwards gently without risking startling him. Let the Ellies come to us. Well, at the moment we've got a view of his bottom, but if he swishes his tail nicely for us, we can actually have a look at how easy it is to tell that he is a male. He's playing shy. But it can be very difficult with young elephants like this because their foreheads don't take on the nice rounded shape of a mature bull. And so you've got to have a look between their legs. And there you've got that forwards facing penis sheath that tucks down between them. That when they're at a young age like this, apart from their behavior, that's probably the only way of spotting a young elephant bull, or one of the only ways, if you're glancing quickly. And that tail is all important in terms of breeding animal behavior. At the moment he's perfectly relaxed, it's swishing from side to side, he's using it as a fly swatter. But I've had elephants before, and I have related this tale to some of the more regular viewers, but trying to sneak up on an elephant bull who was feeding, and we could pinpoint exactly the moment, although he was relaxed and he was still feeding, he gave no other indication that he'd seen us except for the fact that his tail went absolutely still, completely still and completely stiff. And it was just as he focused his attention on us. That was an on-foot approach. This boy's tail is telling us a lot, and that he's pretty happy. Look at him reverse. I wonder how often they bump into things when they do that, when they walk backwards like that. I don't think that often. They've got such an incredible sense of proprioception. We're Which way are you going to go, boy? You've already proved to be unpredictable once. You're going to move off into the bush. Camera shy now. He's going to go after that weeping wattle. Oh, no, he's gone for the buffalo thorn behind it. Interesting to see what they target and when. A couple of weeks ago, it was the weeping wattles that were getting caught by all the elephants and they were being chewed. Now it's the buffalo thorns and the knob thorns. It's their turn to be eaten by elephants. Those seasonal preferences are so important in terms of making the most or taking advantage of the nutrients available to them. Oh yes, so there is. Try and reposition so we can see the one that's behind us. Surrounded by elephants. It's going to come across the road. Thanks, Wium. I didn't see that one, I saw that one. This one's going to disappear fairly quickly, I think. Right, I'm going to try reposition slightly so that we can have a look at this male who's behind the trees here. Apparently, at the moment, oh, that's very pretty. It seems as though Brent has found a really nice, stable signal area, finally. So let's head across and hear how his leopard tracking adventures went, and I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. Unfortunately, not the best of news. We're sitting out next to this myriad of thick drainage lines next to us here, and there was a squirrel alarm calling, and what I think is it's actually, even though it's still overcast and cloudy, it is quite warm. And I think this leopard's moved into this area. And there's about 7 or 8 drainage lines, and some of them quite deep, sort of 12 to 20 foot deep. So we can't get a vehicle in there. So I think he's gone in there to just sleep for a little bit, but definitely worth coming back to this area on the sunset safari. So the squirrel was calling just beyond this dead knob thorn here. So somewhere in there, in that tangle of thickets and the drainage lines, I'm sure he's resting up. So hopefully he's going to make his way out of there on the sunset safari. So it's really sort of hot and muggy and humid at the moment, so I think he's not going to move too far. So we're going to make our way out of this block and see what else is around for the last few minutes.
Follow up on Ellen Fowler's update. Desperate to see Shadow, so very, very keen to catch up with her there. A big thank you to Wium for his wonderful camera work this morning, as well as his spotting and his eyes, and the quick coffee break that we somehow managed to squeeze in secretly after our early rushed start. And a big thank you to you, the viewers, for all of your wonderful questions and comments. We will catch you again this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. Have a wonderful day wherever you are.
Welcome back, everyone. Unfortunately, the leopards continue to evade us, but don't worry, we will keep trying our best to find them. But what an exciting morning! Great way to actually officially start the weekend. African wild dogs, the second most endangered canid in Africa. The only more endangered canid is the Ethiopian wolf or simian fox that occurs in the Bale Mountains. But hopefully this sunset safari we're going to be able to come back into this area and hopefully have a little bit more luck with that leopard. Hopefully comes out of those drainage lines and thickets and moves up onto these more open areas where we are able to find him and we have signal. So we do apologize for that. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't control where the animals go, and that particular leopard was moving through an area that's very, very bad signal at the moment. So hopefully our tech geniuses can fix that shortly. But really looking forward to getting out there again on the sunset safari. Lots of stuff happening. Lovely to have all the elephants around at the moment, and nice to see that 3-tusked elephant. I haven't seen her for quite some time. I think the last time I saw it was at Buffalo's Hook Dam, and hopefully, I always hope it clears up a little bit, but I got a feeling this cloud cover is here to stay for the day. So exciting times ahead. And again, thank you for all your questions and for your support in watching us. We really do appreciate everything. And I know you guys are spread throughout the world, and you come to join us for a little slice of heaven that is Africa. So for the last couple of seconds of drive, I'm going to give you what we call home and just listen to some of the birds and look at the wonderful green bush that surrounds us at this time of the year.